Welcome to another exciting episode of Body Talk. I think this is our second episode.
Yes.
On this program, we're going to talk about depression and maybe how to recognize the symptoms,
Yes.
what to do about it, what
Yes.
else?
Treatment. And then lastly, we're going to talk about seeking community resources and touch on suicide a little bit.
Okay. By the way, this is Marlene Childers. She's a registered nurse here at the university and deals with a lot of students and
Yes.
different things. And you also work or have worked in another hospital in a clinical setting?
Yes, I presently work at Holzer's in urgent care. And so I have a 28-year track there of nursing in different categories, but mainly was in OB for a long period of time. So
Okay.
I've dealt with some depression, mainly postpartum and so forth. So we take it very serious. And then most recently on campus, in my present job, we've had students that have felt depressed and had some suicidal ideations at times. So it's nothing new for me. So
how would you recognize as somebody being depressed? Everybody has a bad day. You get bummed out. Maybe your dog gets hit on the road or whatever. I'm just like bummed. Depression is different, right?
Yeah, so let's first define what depression is. Depression is a common but serious illness. It is more than feeling sad like you would feel when your dog got hit by a car or injured. It's more than feeling sad or feeling blue for a few days, okay? Depression can interfere with your daily life, and it can affect work, school, and your relationships.
Now, it can do that. It doesn't necessarily have to.
Most generally, it does.
Okay. So sometimes
When you are depressed, you cannot deal with things like you would when you're feeling blue. Your thought process is just not up to par, perhaps.
Right.
And so depression can affect anyone at any time. One thing about depression is that it does not discriminate. So it often occurs alongside of other illnesses such as cancer, diabetes, heart disease.
Now, is there not only emotional, I don't know if you want to say triggers or emotional reasons for being depressed, are there also physical reasons? I know you brought up
Yes,
diabetes and
like
stuff.
diabetes and cancer, any type of.
Now, being cancer, is that more so the illness, or is that just because you hear the C word and now, oh my God?
Well, probably both. I
Yeah.
mean, because we know that cancer, although it's come a long way in treatment and so forth, but when you hear that word cancer, we tend to automatically think the worst.
Death sentence.
Yes. But actually, scientists believe that depression is an illness of the brain, and its exact causes are not clear, although they're kind of leaning toward that there's an imbalance in the chemicals of the brain.
Stuff maybe
So
like serotonin, that type of stuff?
That's correct. And so, that's why more people, or some people, are more prone to depression than others. For me, I'm typically not a depressive person. I I try to stay upbeat and look at the best, try to make the best out of
Right.
life. And,
What's the
and
upside
daily.
or the silver lining or
Right.
whatever?
Always, looking at things in an
Glass half
upbeat,
full.
right. Whereas many people or some people who suffer from depression, they just don't have that part there. So that's why they're thinking there's a chemical imbalance, why some people are more at risk for depression than others. But also, there are like specific changes in the brain chemistry that can lead to many symptoms of depression, such as genetics, hormonal changes, and that's why women tend to be more depressed than men. But it also could be that women seek treatment more than men or express their emotions more than men. And that's why our numbers tend to be a little higher, perhaps.
Right. I'm not sure if I'd be completely on board with more females. I know their mood swings may be a little bit bigger, but guys coming back from wartime or
Right.
different traumatic situations
Right.
would be, maybe it's more to trigger them or something.
Right.
I don't know.
And they
And
generally.
guys are taught to suck it up.
Yes, you're right. That's how they were raised. A lot of, you talked about veterans, they're more likely to suffer from PTSD and
that's different from depression.
depression, right.
You can have both.
That's correct. So alcohol and drugs, they can lead to worsening of depression. So those.
Is that the effects that it has on your life, or because they themselves are depressants?
They themselves are depressants, alcohol especially, and then any life change, job loss, loss of a family member or a loved one. All those can trigger depression. And so I'll talk about symptoms of depression.
Or maybe, how to recognize it in a family member.
Yes.
And because you'd be the first probably line of defense to say, hey, you need to be seen.
I hope I would be here on campus,
Right.
For the students.
Right.
But yes, if you, think someone's depressed or having trouble just getting through daily life, then yeah, by all means you would want to, reach out to somebody. But symptoms of depression include feeling sad or empty, feeling tired, feeling hopelessness or guilt, having difficulty remembering or concentrating, and then feeling alone, like you have, no one to turn to, and you actually feel like you don't have any friends that you can turn to.
And I'm the only one that ever felt like this before. There's nobody I can relate to.
We hear that a lot, yes.
And if you look around, there probably is somebody you can relate to.
Yes.
More than you would think.
Absolutely. They just have to, take that step to seek that out.
Right.
But a lot of times, individuals that are depressed, they have a loss of interest. They lack that motivation to get out and enjoy the beautiful weather outside, the sunshine, and they avoid those activities that typically would bring them pleasure. And so
it's sort of a self-perpetuating thing.
It is. And actually, with depression, it can lead to even physical complaints like body aches, just unexplained body aches and pains, loss or gaining weight, changes in sleep patterns, And lastly, thoughts of suicide or suicide attempts. But most people feel down from time to time or go through periods of sadness and may experience some of the symptoms we talked about from time to time, but it does not necessarily mean that they have clinical depression. When these feelings are prolonged and go on for 2 or 3 weeks, then it becomes a concern that that person's getting depressed.
Yeah.
So let's...
You would have normally a point of like just a blue period. I'm bummed for, half a week or whatever, got fired or whatever thing. You get bummed for a while, but if you don't bounce back within a few weeks, then it's a problem.
Then it's a problem. And so that's when, if you know somebody like that, or you're concerned about someone like that, that's where you would need to step in and get this person some help. Hopefully you can talk them into getting help, but that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Is when it goes on.
Now we had a chat line question. Because this is sort of an interactive show. It's on Blog Talk Radio, and you can get on the chat line and mention things to us. Do people take drugs like Oxycontin to deal with depression?
Well, normally...
I'm not sure if that's the right drug.
Yeah,
Right?
well, normally Oxycontin is used to treat pain.
Right.
And so a lot of times these individuals turn that depression into, like I mentioned, the body aches, the pain. And so Oxycontin is a very habit-forming drug. And so I think that taking that, you're putting more problems onto what's already there. You're creating
You're not treating
more.
it.
You're not treating it at all. It's just a temporary fix, perhaps.
It's sort of like being maybe, I don't know if you were hooked on it, it'd be like being an alcoholic.
Right.
It's another downer
Yes.
that turns your feelings off.
Yes.
Now, if you're depressed, you don't want to turn your feelings off.
Although in their mind, turning their feelings off is better than, feeling. And so Oxycontin is not a drug to be used for depression.
Right.
If anything, it's going to create more problems because it's highly addictive, and so you're just creating more. It just piles up. Right. But depression is very common today in America. It's raised more awareness in the past few years, and most recently this past week,
Right.
about the
German airliner that crashed in the
co-pilot.
Alps.
Yes. He evidently suffered from severe depression, and they actually, from what I gather, they had actually advised him not to work. And he did not let anyone know about that. He hid.
And that may be
it.
I don't know if that's a failing within the system, with the doctors not being allowed to share that information with your employer, the confidentiality things, which you would think in a piloting situation that would be of interest.
Yes, because so many people are at stake there. I
Right.
mean, they've got, those people are under their mercy. I mean,
If you're watching this later on YouTube, at this point in time, this is an ongoing investigation. So this may be weird or old news at that time.
Yeah, but he was found to be depressed and caused a mass murder of
Right.
140 individuals. And
In the long run, if you look at the big picture, it may change some things and help in the future as far as the rules and regulations and reporting and things like that.
I look that there will be a change from this. I truly do. I look beyond here, and I think, that something maybe, I'm hopeful that something maybe good will come out of all this badness here.
Now, I looked up some stuff as far as treatments. Now, this is just, I'm not quite sure if I was depressed, if I would want to take some of the drugs that, you see on television that they talk about. Because some of the side effects are as bad or worse than what it is that you're dealing with. So the things that I had found are things that you can do on your own. And hopefully you have the motivation to do that. First thing is get into a routine. And this is a good routine. You can have a bad routine, but get into a healthy routine. Don't stay in bed too long. Get up, get started, get a shower, do something. Set goals.
Absolutely.
You should have something to look forward to and something to work on. If you have a goal, then you have somewhere to go and something.
You're motivated.
Right. Exercise.
Absolutely.
Exercise
Helps.
raises those, is it serotonin?
Serotonin.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one thing for me is my dogs. They get me out walking almost daily, depending on the weather. Getting out in the woods with them or whatever,
Right.
and sharing the day with them. Eating healthy. If you're living on junk food and potato chips or whatever, you're not feeding your body and your brain everything that it needs to get.
You're not feeding. That's right. You're not, providing it with the proper nutrients to keep you healthy. And so if you're eating a bunch of fried, greasy foods every day, 3 times a day, it's going to weigh you down. And
you could almost liken that to, alcohol. Because some of these junk foods that are high in fat give you that momentary, yum, that was good.
Yes.
But in the long term,
it's causing a lot of damage.
Right.
Yes.
Get enough sleep, in which you should have a regular bedtime, and get 6 or 7.
Well, they're
8?
saying
Kind of depends on your age.
6 to 8 hours. Yes, and you're right. It does depend on your age. I know for a fact a lot of our college students do not get enough sleep.
It's not fair, because I know when you age, you need less sleep. But you might be less busy when you're older. It should be turned around.
It should be.
When you're younger, you need more sleep.
I agree. Absolutely. But, we live in a world today where it's so competitive, and there is a lot of pressure on these young adults.
I noticed that whenever I lived in Europe. The pace of European lifestyle is not really slow, but they take time to enjoy things. If I want to take an extra 15 minutes at lunch, have another cup of coffee or whatever, they'll do that. They go on group walks. But whenever I came back to the United States, landed there, I just felt the whole world speed up, and then the pressure was behind you to make more money.
Yes.
When I was living in Europe, what I had was good. What I had was enough.
It was
Just
more,
a different mindset.
It wasn't that competition.
I've got to have more.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
That's
see
sort of
that.
an American thing.
Yes, I think you're right.
Take on some responsibilities. I don't know if you would be leader of a group or I'm not sure what type of responsibilities.
Mike, recently we went to a conference up at Ann Arbor, Michigan, depression and suicide among college students. And they actually found that having a pet helped with depression, just that pet therapy. you know, it gives them responsibility. I mean,
That'll get you up
know,
in the morning. That'll
right,
make you go out for a walk.
right. And so they found that, you know, these individuals that were depressed or dealing with depression and having a hard time coming out of it, that pet therapy was, you know, they reacted much better with the pet therapy than some of them did with medications. And so I myself, I'm like you, I have 3 dogs. Mm-hmm. And of course I got a bummed finger here where I got dog bit by one.
Yeah, I have that too, because I was giving them treats and they got a little overzealous.
Well, mine.
They nipped the end of my finger.
Yeah, I've had that done, but I have 2 male dogs, and so they kind of get a little jealous.
Competitive or something.
And so I reached down there, and I shouldn't have had my hands down there while they were kind of at it, and got bit. And so I think I'm going to be losing my finger now, but still, my dogs, you know, you're right. I mean, they love you unconditionally. You know,
they're always happy to see you.
Happy to see you. I used to say when I come home, I'd say, you know, if only my kids were that happy to see me when I get home, because those dogs are all over me.
And they just didn't dump problems on you. The only problem they have is like, I need to go outside right now.
That's it.
Or feed me.
And give me a treat when I do good, you know. So.
Okay, we had another comment on the chat line. Money or the lack of money is a problem. You know, I guess if you have too much money, you spend it on crazy stuff. That gets you into problems. And the lack of is a problem that's not easy to resolve. What can one do to feel good when we are worried?
Well,
you know, you got money, worries, and bills.
I think, you know, I think at this time probably a lot of us are feeling that.
Yeah.
I know I am. So my advice would be to just try and make the best out of every day. You can't worry about tomorrow. You got to get through the day. And you know, my husband tends to worry about next month. You know, are we going to be able to do this? And, you know, I'm just a firm believer that things will take care of themselves.
Right.
I mean, yes, you have to pay your bills. Lack of money is a stressor.
Oh, definitely.
But it's not a depressant, okay? So you have to make life what it is. You have to make it worthwhile. Only you are in control of doing that. So you don't have to have money to go out and take a walk and enjoy the sunshine. You don't have to have money to spend time with family or those people that you find joy with. And so, you know, just because...
And there's a lot of things that people think they have to have that they really don't.
And again, we live in a material world,
right. And
just... I think with maturity comes realizing you don't have to have all those things, you know.
One of the couple things I would say is try and live simpler.
Exactly.
You know, cut out the fat, try to live simply. Another place is, you know, maybe my faith has a little bit to do with it, that knowing, you know, not just hoping and having that, but having the mindset that, and trust that it will come and it will resolve. You know, I know there was a bill coming down the road. And wouldn't you know, between that time where I knew that was going to come and something happened, I got another job, there was another windfall of money that somehow came to me. And that is somewhat out of manifesting it through your thoughts or trusting in God or however you want to put it.
Right. I agree with that. Living simpler, there's nothing wrong with that. That's to me, as I've gotten older, is very healthy. but here's the thing. Money problems are, they can be depressive. But like I said, you have to use your community resources. If you have lack of money and you can't pay your bills, then there are.
See what help is available.
Exactly. Get help with your heating bill, or talk to your creditors and let them know, look, I'm facing some financial issues here, and will you work with me? I mean,
Right. So you don't destroy your credit at the same time.
That's right.
All right. Last few things on here. Challenge negative thoughts. If you hear that little voice inside of you saying things, don't give in to that. Fight them back. Give yourself some positive reinforcement. Check with a doctor before starting any supplements. Do something new. Get a new hobby. Have a new interest. Redirect some of that. Staying busy is a big thing. If you're just sitting in your house and moping around and concentrating on yourself,
to it. Yes.
that's not good.
Yes.
Have fun and keep people around that bring light and happiness into your
There
life.
you go. That's to me, that's the biggest thing. I mean, if I'm around people that don't really make me feel good,
Right.
I've
had to cut people out of my life for that, and
and
you
there's
hate to.
nothing wrong with that. I mean,
Don't feel guilty about it.
Right. I want to be around people that make me feel good just by the joy that's in their heart. You know what I'm saying? And you just gotta weed out the bad. I mean,
and those bad influences that take you in places where you shouldn't be going.
Shouldn't be going, which adds to more problems.
Right. So, at the end of this, if you really can't get through it, sometimes you need to talk to someone. We have a phone number. Which phone number is this? Is this your phone number?
Yeah. So
Bring it
let's
up on the
post
bottom
a
there.
number up here.
I think it's
because-
the first one.
Yes. And so here's our number. I want to
740-245-7389.
correct.
That gets you in touch with Rio Grande Health Services,
That's correct.
and from there you will make them a appointment with someone at Woodland Center.
Yes, we have a counselor that comes out to Rio every Wednesday. She sees all Rio students free of charge. Free. So
Something
there's-
else your tuition goes for.
Absolutely. I mean, it's free. So why not utilize that resource that's
Right.
there to help with any feelings of depression you may have?
Now these next numbers here, Woodland Centers, 740-446-5500. That's their direct line.
That is, and you can call and schedule an appointment there, but it's not going to be free.
Okay.
But if you are outside of the University of Rio Grande, you're not a student, and you're here in Gallia County, I would encourage you to utilize that number.
What's
Or,
crisis line?
That's an emergency that if you're in a crisis and you have thoughts of depression or suicide, then you would utilize that number.
That's 1-800-252-5554. Okay, I think we have one more. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline.
Yes.
That is 1-800-273-TALK or 1-800-273-8255.
That's correct. And
So we've only got 30 seconds left.
okay, well,
What
let
would you
me,
like to say?
what I'd like to say is if you are aware of anybody that's depressed or contemplating suicide or thinking about hurting themselves in any way, please step in and inform someone, whether it be myself, a doctor, or anyone. Please step in and help this person get some help.
Okay. I think this has been a very important and informative show, something a lot of people have dealt with, and thanks for talking to us about that. And thank you guys for watching another episode of Body Talk.
And thank you very much for having me, Mike. Thank you. Okay, that went so fast.